A day or so after Storm Barney had passed by, I had a text off the lady a couple of doors away asking me if I'd seen a roof of a shed anywhere. Fortunately, it was in the next door neighbours to me, and she's unfortunately on her own now. Her husband sadly passed away. He's the guy who had the allotment plot before me. So me and my mates are going to get the roof back on and sorted out for her. Well, good morning folks, it's 1st of December and winter's definitely on its way. The most notable thing is the dahlias and that, they've just been clobbered and flattened black, and that's it, we've had it. Up until we had the frosts, there was lots and lots of flowers in there. However, like everything else, it's come to an end, so I'll be taking those out shortly. One of the jobs I've got planned to do over the winter is, this has been a bit of a dead space over the couple of years I've had the allotment. So from where the house rail is, I'm going to shift that, and I'm going to make a bed about 4 foot wide, right the way down to more or less where the carrot troughs start. So I'll be clearing that out, turning the soil over and making the raised beds out of building planks, and hopefully in the meantime we should get some horse manure in. What I'll do is partially dig it, fill the horse manure and put the soil back on the top and leave it to rot over the winter. But that's the job I'll be doing over the next maybe a couple of videos, so there's no rush for that. So it's all weather dependent. With the onset of this cold snap, my wife's decided to do a stew, so I'm just going to pick a parsnip, swede or so, and maybe a couple of carrots, and hopefully I can find an onion if they haven't all rotted off. And that one will do nicely. That one's split for some reason. Here's a sweet candle. That's another parsnip ready for the pot. Well, as you can see from that soil out there, it's not even worth trying to get on it. It's absolutely sodden. There's lying water in different parts of the paths and that. So I'm not going to touch it for the next day or two. I have been too good myself. I've had asthma back, and on that. I've had a cold on top, so I ain't been over the plot for over a week. That's be probably the second time I've been over. So I'm going to get a rest for a few days. I just explained to you, I've got a little new bed at the side of the allotment to construct, and I'll do that over the next 1 or 2 videos. So that's another thing to look forward to, hopefully. I'm one of my subscribers, and I've seen it on a few of the others on the YouTube. There's the equivalent of, I suppose, the ice bucket challenge is the. For those of you who don't know what the ice bucket challenge is, it's a thing what started about 2 years ago. I actually did it. I was on holiday in America, and I got it through on my email, and I did it over there. If I can find the video clip, I'll pop it on and show you. But believe me, a bucket of ice, it's freezing cold.
Come on, Jeff.
Go!
2, 1, go.
Oh,
that's serious, man. That's serious. It's too much ice, man.
Anyway, I got nominated by Joe and Phil off the Longlies. It's basically 10 questions relating to your gardening activities and that. And the idea is you answer them in your blog, then pass it on to another 2 or 3 of your subscribers and let them give the chance to answer it when they're next to their blog. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee or a sleeping bag, because it might be a long one. And so look what we got. The first question is, how long have you had your allotment for? I've actually, looking back, I've had my allotment now for, it's 2 years, just gone this September. And the way I got it was a bit of misfortune, really. I'd retired from work on the September 2013, yes. And I'd made inquiries about the allotments over the other end of my fence, and as it happened, there was another plot came up the left-hand side of the path as you go out of what is the gate now, on the left-hand side, the row along the left-hand side of the path. About the 4th plot along came vacant. It was the one which you saw in the video, although it was the last one or the one before, where the windows got blown out the greenhouse. That was the plot was up for grabs. So I was in and ahhing about it. Then the guy who lived a couple of doors away, it's the lady whose shed roof was just blown off. Her husband had got the plot, which I've got now, the bottom of the garden, and so sadly he got cancer and he passed away, and she obviously wasn't going to keep the plot on, and she knew I was after one, so she mentioned it to the secretary, and he come up to me and says, if you're interested in the plot, you can have it. So as it happened, I managed to get my plot at the bottom of my fence. So poor old Bill, rest his soul. And so that's how good. It's September 2013, so it's just over 2 years I've had it now. It was completely different to what it is now. So there was a lot of very narrow, and it predominantly grew just fruit. If I can find some photos of it, I'll put it on before and after. It won't be on this video, maybe the next time, because I need to re-photograph it again from the same spot that I took the original pictures from. So that's something I'll look forward to and see if we can find out for you in the future. Question 2. How long did you have to wait for your allotment? Well, I think I just answered it in the first one. It was I originally put the feelers out just as I was probably just before retiring. So I probably waited about 9 months, I think, for it. But originally I'd got no interest in gardening. But as I bought my house and then things developed, I got more interested, and the rest is history, as I say. Question 3. Where did you learn about gardening? Well, my dad was a very keen gardener. We'd got quite a big, long garden in the house I was born in, and we lived there for probably about 16 years before we moved, and it got one side just dedicated to growing vegetables, and the other side was lawn. But try as hard as he could never get me to help. I mean, I can remember as a kid, like, him trying to encourage me, and I just didn't want to know. And it wasn't until I bought my house that, even then, I wasn't interested in mowing the lawn was a chore. And then, unfortunately, I live on a clay belt, and in the end, I got that fed up of the grass being terrible. I got it ripped up, block paved, but I had some raised beds built. And from then on, I started buying bedding plants, and then I got some perennials, and I started watching Gardener's World a bit at a time. Then I think it was Gardening Time on Central TV with a chap named Howard Drury, who's a local bloke to me, and Jeff Amos. And there also be another bloke called Cyril Fletcher and Bob Price. And from then on, I started going to garden shows. So I think me and my wife have done every Gardener's World show at the NEC since it started. We've done Tatton Park, never done Chelsea, Hampton Court a few times. Shrewsbury Flower Show is a fantastic show. I've been down to Blenheim Palace. And it's from there the encouragement just started to build up. And you got to see quite a few of the well-known gardeners there, and they obviously get to see you, and some of them all recognise you and say hello, and that's how it's in. And I also do a lot of reading. I've got a lot of gardening books. I never tend to pay full price for them. I go markets and stuff like that. But I've got quite a big collection, and that was another thing I planned on doing over the colder months, is probably doing 1 or 2 book reviews for each video, but that ain't come around yet. But maybe that's something for the pipeline in the future. And obviously there's the internet. I do a lot of searching on the internet, and that's obviously how I come across YouTube. So I think that answers that one. Number 4, do you plant a winter garden? No, not really. It's purely because of days like this. I do put the odd overwintering cabbage and collies in, stuff like that. And the only other thing I plant, well, as you know, is garlic and stuff like that, and maybe some Japanese onions. But I don't really tend to plant stuff for over the winter. I like to give the ground a rest, in hopefully payback time for it to produce me some good crops over the summer. But as you know, that ain't usually the case. Number 5, what's been your biggest success this year or ever? Well, probably the most thing I was surprised with this year was the cherry tree, which, as some of you all know, knows the shape of my plot. Right down the bottom, I've got my compost bins I built, and to be honest, this cherry tree was in the way, and I'd actually booked an appointment with a chainsaw with it. And I noticed as the season started progressing, there's buds and buds going on. So, and a couple of the guys on the allotment says you ought to put a net over that because the birds will have it. Anyway, I got this net I found, and me and my mate threw it over the top and lashed it as good as we could. And surprisingly enough, the cherries developed, and we had a huge crop off it, and it saved its life, to be honest. So that's staying there. And so that was the cherry tree. And the other thing, the apples have done very good this year. Although the previous year I did give them a good pruning, because I don't think they'd ever been touched before. They'd just been left to grow wild. So I'll give them a good crop in the first year. We had 1 or 2, but nothing special. But this year has been a fantastic crop. So them are the 2 things which have really, paid me back this year. Number 6, what's been your biggest gardening disaster? Well, as people who know who followed my blog from earlier on in the season, I had this disaster regarding, it was the parsnips. I'd sown them religiously, and they'd come up fantastic, and they was up probably an inch or so, maybe not quite that high. But to protect them from the cold winds and rain, I'd put 3 sheets of toughened glass, and it was 6 foot by 2 foot panes, and I'd placed them over the top on a couple of pieces of wood just to lift them clear, just to give them the protection, and that obviously was doing them good because they was growing quite well. Unfortunately, one night as I was watering, I had to slide the glass out of the way to get the watering can in, and it caught the edge of the other one, and it actually shattered into thousands of pieces, tiny shards, and it was just an impossible task to pick them out of the seedlings. So in the end, what I did, I just raked all the soil up to one end, riddled it, got most of the glass out, and ended up re-sowing the parsnips. So that put me back about 6 weeks, but it does seem to have done any harm, as you can see. The broccoli was another one. I planted that, and it just bolted like Billy O. It must have been the weather we had. It was up and down, and I'd look at it one day, it's okay. The next day there was florets on it, and the day after it exploded. And I ended up doing 2 plantings of that. And it was a similar story with the sprouts. I'd sown them and planted them out exactly the same I'd done the year previously, and it was quite a good crop of that. However, for some reason this year, just before I went on holiday the end of July, I got 3 or 4 of the sprouts that actually bolted and was flowering at the top. So I had to crop all those down, and I managed in the end to probably get 2/3 of the crop off and freeze them, but I did lose a few through them blowing. Question 7. Do you have a tried and true crop variety that you always grow well? So I've only grown 2 years on this plot, but there's, what am I going to say is carrots, sweet candle. Try them. If you haven't tried them, try them. Fantastic crop. The other one is celery. When I mentioned I was growing celery on the plot, there's 2 or 3 of the gardeners, celery, you don't do too good with it on here, and you need to blanch it. And so I looked on the internet, and there was this one variety kept coming up a lot. People recommend it, called Latham self-blanching. Latham, yeah. So I tried it, sown seeds, got a load. I got that many, I'll give a load away. I must have give 2 dozen plants away. And I put mine in, had a fantastic crop. And the same again, grown it this year, and I've just pulled the last 2 out. So if you excuse me, my phone's just ringing, I've got to go and answer it, so we'll just have a little break. I'm back. So I was on about the carrots, celery, another great crop. The other thing I had, sour palmetto potatoes. Third year growing them, fantastic. Very well. I've had no blight. Some people say they've had a bit on it, but I've had none, and they keep tremendously. So sour palmetto, that's my other one I must grow. Next question is question 8. Are you planning on trying anything new next year? Well, believe it or not, I'm gonna try and grow courgette. I've never ever grown courgette. I've never really been all that keen on. But one of the guys a couple of plots away from me, his wife does a lot of baking, and she made a courgette cake, and he was telling me about it, and I don't really like it. He says, you'll like this. So he got his wife to make one, and I ain't kidding you, it was fantastic. It lasted about, I don't think it lasted quite the day. It was a fairly big cake, but it didn't last. Anyway, since then, we've had the recipe off, and my wife's made one, and there's walnuts, and it's a lovely cake. So I'm going to try growing my own next year. So that's a new one for next year, courgettes. Number 9, how do you preserve your crops? Well, basically it's just freezing. Like we've frozen the sprouts, the beans, we do the cabbage, collie, anything like that. But 9 times out of 10, I like to leave it in the ground as possible, long as possible, and pick it fresh and eat it. So the only other thing to that is my wife does this lovely soup. It's leek and celery soup with potato and cream. Oh, it's delicious. I just love it with a bit of crusty bread. So that's what we do with the crusty. And finally, the last question is, what's your favourite meal to cook with your veg from the plot? Quick answer on that one. I don't do cooking. I can burn the water boiling an egg, so I'll leave that to my wife. But it is nice to have a Sunday roast and look on the plate and look at the veg on there and notice that it's been fresh out the ground. So that's about as far as I'll go. So that's about it. That's my 10 questions answered. So what I intend to do now, I'm going to send a few PMs out to 3 people who I think could answer these questions quite well in their next blog, and those are Mr. Terry King, there's Aaron's Allotment, and last but not least, Jamie of OverGrowTheUK. So look in your inboxes, guys. I'm going to send you the questions, and I expect you to put them up in your next blog. So that's about all from me now. My throat's getting dry. I suppose you're getting bored. And so until next time. Oh, by the way, before I do that, I've noticed my subscriber count's getting very close to the 1,000 mark. I'm about 18, 15 short. So welcome to all the new subscribers. Thank you to all my existing ones. And thank you to everybody what takes the time to put a comment on my videos. I do appreciate that. Thank you. That's about it till next time. So see you out again. Bye for now.